Hello everyone and welcome to Hill Street. Today's story is My Lab Partner Got Sick. If you end up enjoying this story, please leave a like. And if you enjoy hearing stories from me, please subscribe and become a resident of Hill Street and let me know how I'm doing in the comments. Now, let's get to this nightmare. I've always had an innate fascination with mold and fungus, decomposers, and the way things can make their life and death. There's hundreds upon thousands of types of mold, like from the crap you cut off cheese, and the white fuzzy stuff that looks like faux fur, to black mold that could slowly kill you without even raising a finger, just from breathing it in. It's horrific from the human point of view, but there's real beauty in it. I didn't come here to gush about mold, or well, I did, but not in that sense. I came to talk about my lab partner and her flu. Roberta Guzmán has always been in my class. We didn't really run in the same circles, but I still considered her a close acquaintance, someone I could probably trust. Before I start, she is not frail in the slightest. She doesn't get sick easily, and never for more than a few days. This girl is built like a brick crap house. Well, for a 16-year-old she is. She played sports, she was active, she was outgoing, I think. I never actually heard of her hanging out with anyone outside of school, but she always had a gaggle of friends around her during classes. She would usually choose to spend her time in her books though. Real smart. Which is why I was so psyched to have her as my lab partner in the beginning. I'm not dumb by any means, but biology, labs, it's always good to have a second opinion, and mine just happened to get all A's without fail. It started out great. Roberta would take a majority of the work, kind of an overachiever, and I would provide corrections or opinions where it was needed. We got along great, had inside jokes, and she wouldn't snitch if I snuck a snack to our table in the mornings. A few weeks in though, we started in on molds. I told you, I love the buggers. Mold is fascinating to me, but she took it to another level. At first, she wouldn't touch it, pushing the samples and hands-on work to me, while she did the paperwork. But I would see her looking at the samples from the corner of my eye when she thought I couldn't see her. Her expression was longing, hopeful, yearning. Weird ways to look at plastic containers of moldy bread. But I wasn't about to call her on something I could have easily imagined. The day before she got sick, she insisted, almost looking frantic, that she do all the work today. It was the last day of molds and such, and she always seemed so taken with them, out of the corner of my eye. I let her. I just wrote down whatever I managed to catch as she was spewing out paragraph after paragraph of observation and little fun facts about what we were working with and what she had learned recently. It was a normal day, a normal lab session, until she ate it. Just as we were packing up, she plucked the slide from my hands, pulled it apart, and just licked it up. Black mold, like she was licking butter from her fingers. Then she gave me a smile, and I couldn't even make a noise. I was so shocked. I was still smiling from something she had said beforehand. Then, she disappeared. She didn't come back to school for a solid month. After the first week, I got assigned to a new group. I asked a classmate what she had heard about Roberta. What was wrong with her? Some kind of flu, she said, and shrugged at me. Heard it was a lung infection, my other partner said. I believed it. I let it go. The next time I saw her, it wasn't in school. I was taking the city bus home, was standing and holding one of the bars when the woman next to me started coughing. It was an ugly cough, deep in the chest. There had been a smell coming from her, stale and damp. The whole bus had started to smell like an old basement. I turned to offer a tissue or something and recognized those rugby shoulders. I was surprised. I asked where she had been and what was happening with her. She gestured to the mask on her face, eyes crinkling in a sort of smile. Been sick, she told me, her voice deeper than normal, raspy from illness. I wish I could have said we caught up for the rest of the ride, but she turned away and I had to keep my mouth shut. The smell was stronger now, heavy in my nose and heavy on my tongue. She moved to get off at the next stop, and I grabbed her sleeve, offering to drop off the work she had missed for the last month. She thanked me with her address and left. Her shirt had been damp and warm, and as she retreated, the smell lingered, but it was more of an aftertaste. I refused to believe the smell was her, but maybe she was sicker than she had let on. The next day I got off at the same spot she had the day before, walking about 10 minutes, then 15, then 20, until I came up to the door of a house, smushed tightly between two others, both for sale. It was odd, but not too out of place. I knocked heavily on the door. Only one knock did it though, as the door just fell in and landed. The wood was rotted and wet. The smell hit me like a brick wall, this time with something sour mixed in. I brought my shirt collar up over my nose and mouth before stepping in. The carpet made a wet squelch as I sunk in. I swallowed down bile and moved on, calling out Roberta's name as I went. It was a 2-story house, and I had to walk through the front room to get to the stairs, where I heard the shower running. Their TV was on. Some cooking show, I think. I wasn't paying attention. The smell was so bad, I almost had to leave. It coated my tongue in a sweet, acrid, rotting smell. Right on the couch was what I think might have been her parents once. I didn't stick around long enough to find out. They were blue and bloated, tongues fat and swollen, sticking out of their heads with their bulging eyes, and mold. There was mold everywhere. Mold, maggots, mushrooms, feeding on the decomposing bodies that may have once been people. I don't think I screamed, and if I did, there was no one to hear it. I dropped the stack of papers on the floor and fled, hand over my mouth. I did throw up, several times. I can't get the taste out of my mouth. I've scrubbed my tongue raw over it. I couldn't tell my parents. I got home late and went straight to bed. She was at school the next day. She was sitting in her assigned lab spot, waiting for me. Her skin still had a sickly pallor to it, all damp with sweat and holding a slightly bluish hue, just like the corpse. I could barely look at her. I just left, hid out in the bathroom until she came to find me. She crouched down and touched my shoulder. "What's wrong?" she asked, looking concerned. She reached up and pulled her mask down, and her face was decomposing. Her lower face was covered in holes and fuzzy white mold, circles of bread mold, and her teeth were rotting right out of her skull. I screamed something fierce. I left the school and I went home. The shoulder she had touched was damp and warm. I smelled like an old basement. She hasn't come back to school since, I told my parents. Got the cops called on her. They found the bodies, but apparently weren't able to ID them. Then, nothing. Said it was a case of neglect, and nothing. They just let it go. Thing is, I don't think she's gone. When I'm on the verge of sleep, some nights I smell her. I wake up, and my sheets are damp at the end of the bed. My bedroom door rotted off its hinges last week. I don't know what to do.